Welcome back to Unlocking Our Code podcast. Today, embracing the fact that we are in the month of February, the month of love, we bring you the topic of self-love. Self-love has been and continues to be impactful for us in a topic that can open our heart and bring awareness to the love that has always been there. Tonight, we have a special guest. Her name is Kaila Pittard, and Kaila is in the health and wellness industry and also a wedding production manager. Lou and I have known her for 10 plus years and have witnessed her beautiful journey that she's embarked on, which is self-love. We invited her tonight to join us and discuss this beautiful topic that is self-love. Welcome, Kaila. Hi, Lou.
Hey.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for coming, Kaila. We're excited.
Excited to be here.
I know. Yes. In this episode, I've been wanting to talk about this for a while already because I feel it's so important. It was a super important thing for me to learn. And then I see it everywhere. I mean, you see self-love everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. So, and then Phoebe and I had been talking about it for some time. And you've always kind of popped up in our head in that. Because, you know, like we mentioned, we've been known you for so long already. Mm-hmm. And then we've watched you in that journey.
This little flower blossom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're like, we have to have her on first. So we're excited that you're here.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Definitely. Welcome to our podcast. And we wanted to ask you if you wanted to share a little bit of what you do with our audience.
So I am a fitness and health and wellness coach, part-time. I used to be full-time in that, so it was definitely all about self-love with that. And then now I am a wedding production manager for a floral designer.
Yeah.
Love, right?
Surrounded by love. Yeah, actually, yeah, now that you say that, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I've been watching the stuff that you've created. It's with your brother, right?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
So my brother has always been like this crazy talented guy. Mm-hmm. And then we have our other business designer, Scott. So they both design. And then I bring the crew in and source everything. And it's literally a 3-man job. It's crazy. It's crazy what we do.
But it's beautiful.
It's insane. It's so pretty.
I mean, it's beautiful. Yeah. I watch everything. I love watching you go on the trips everywhere you go, and then when you say like, "Oh my God, guys, I can't wait." Just wait till I show you, and I'm just like, "Hurry up and show me! I want to see what it looks like."
It's horrible because half the time we can't show anything because it's getting
obviously
published.
Yeah.
And they're like, or you have to sign an NDA.
Yeah.
Depending on who it is. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, okay, well, and we'll get it like a year later.
Oh, okay.
And they're like, you could only post the flowers, but you can't post the way the flowers were arranged or something like that. Okay. So it's always something crazy, but it is the most beautiful job and the most fun. Very, very, very grateful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, I was telling you earlier, I was like, I watch you and then I'm always thinking to myself, Kaila, why haven't you been doing this since day one? Like, why haven't you been doing this since day one? You know, I feel like this is so you. So yeah. I'm like, yes, finally, she's doing
what she stepped into her power.
Yeah, exactly.
I think prior to my job, I just wasn't at a place maturity wise. I don't think I was mature enough to handle the role I'm in. Mm-hmm. And then also talking about self-love, I don't think I was in a very loving place of myself to kind of force myself to level up either. Mm-hmm. I think that when you truly love yourself, you kind of set these crazy goals for yourself and you reach them. Mm-hmm. If you're not really loving yourself, you're not going to really push yourself out of the norm.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I'm here now.
Wow. Yeah. I love that. Mm-hmm. That's how you said that. It's so beautiful because it just connects. You know, it's like a connection, like a bridge, mm-hmm. right? Like self-love has been a bridge to you reaching bigger potentials, bigger goals. Yeah. And without you having that bridge, you probably wouldn't be where you're at, right? No. I mean, it's what it sounds like. Yeah. As you're explaining. And that's
it has a lot to do with, I think, with like, having that confidence to believe in yourself and say, like, I can do these things.
Yeah,
like,
or I deserve this career.
Yeah.
I deserve to be in this position of power and accepting and open to all these other things because I deserve it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that. Beautiful, beautiful. And I did want to start with understanding self-love, bringing a little bit of awareness on that.
Yeah.
Self-love is more than just self-care, right? A lot of people get this mistaken that self-love is self-care routines and positive thinking. It's actually more than that. It's about accepting all parts of ourselves, even the ones that we tend to hide or reject. It is a powerful journey of reconciliation. It is a path of self-acceptance and deep compassion for ourselves and all that we have been through. What do you feel like your definition of understanding self-love has been?
I looked this up before I came today because I was like, okay, what does the internet say self-love is? And the internet is like, be kind to yourself and practice self-care. I feel like those are the two most popular ones that people think. But self-love is also pushing boundaries and setting boundaries. It's about, you know, having compassion for yourself when you do feel those negative, bad things that you may feel or some kind of emotion arises. Part of having self-love is being okay with that. A lot of people think self-love, I think, is, well, I did my skincare routine, so I love myself. You know, I went on a jog today, I love myself. But then it's like, did you torture yourself and not eat the rest of the day? So how much do you actually really love yourself?
Yeah.
You know, so it's, I mean, it could go so many different directions, but I really think it's respecting yourself, showing up for yourself, holding yourself accountable to the things that you say you're going to do. Part of having self-love is how you communicate with others, the relationships you accept, being like, you know, with family, friends, partners, all of it, I think is part of self-love.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think one of those things that what you mentioned exactly is what people, it's that surface level. That's what it means. And it took me forever to realize what self-love was. I didn't know what it was. I knew what I was doing to myself. I had to learn what it was that I was doing to myself. And I had to learn that through like going through like my darkest moments. I had to learn, like, you know, I needed to hear someone tell me, you are living in guilt and shame, and you are living in the past, and you're so worried about the future, and you don't even, like, you've not allowed yourself to move on past that. Like, that's where you live. And when they say you need to learn how to forgive yourself, you need to, like, give yourself some compassion. Like, it's okay, you know, you keep thinking about the things from the past, and you're just like in that shame and that guilt. Those two were that's where I lived for many years. And learning how to forgive. It was hard for me to forgive others, and I feel like the first thing that helped me be able to forgive others was to be able to forgive myself, so I can move past the guilt and the shame and be like, and see myself with that compassion, like have that compassion for myself. Yeah. But that took a lot of practice, like a lot of practice. It's not something that you just put in your head one day and then that's it. And even when you hear things like words of affirmation, I think that was huge, right? But things like that, that to play out in my head every single day, it was like an everyday practice. And so, no, self-love is not just taking a jog or doing your skincare routine or going to the gym. Like, there's so much more, and and to go into the depths of it, it's like having compassion for yourself, and forgiving yourself. That way you can, and learning to say no to people, or learning to give what you knowing what you want. So it's those things. And I see all of that in me. I've watched it in you. I watched you grow into that too. Thivi taught me so much of it herself too. Like, she taught me so much of it, and to see these things. And so that's why I feel like self-love is so, like you said, you can go in so many different routes, right, and focus on them. But it's so important that people know how to be aware of it, and then learn different tactics. Not only that, what we mentioned, right?
Yeah, I heard something today that actually really, like, shocked me, because it said, you know, that we believe that self-love is nice, pretty, flowers,
pink,
beautiful, pink, all these things, right? but it's not. It's
ugly.
the actual opposite of that. It's learning to ride your darkest moments. It's learning to love yourself exactly for who you are, loving all the parts, the darkness and the light, not just the light, not just the love, the positivity, but also loving yourself when you don't feel like you can share love in that moment, right? Still holding yourself to that standard. Yes, I might not feel my best today, or I might have not been my best self. I probably didn't handle that situation the best way, but I still choose to love myself regardless of what I'm facing. So it's like learning to embrace ourselves with compassion while we are navigating whatever it is that we're navigating. And that's where it became confusing for me too, because I was like, okay, well, the internet and social media and all this is putting this message out, of what self-love should be. But my actual journey is not reflecting what the external world is telling me. It's actually the opposite of that. It's telling me to hold myself in love when I don't feel like I should be loved in that moment. And it's like accepting myself for who I am, for who I've been, for all the stories, for the trauma I've been through, and just not allowing anything to define me as anything else other than love, right? So it's that practice that Lou says, practicing and practicing and practicing, that no matter what I go through, I refuse to be defined by anything else than love. I don't care what you see. I don't care how others define me. I refuse to accept that I'm anything else than love just because of what I'm going through, just because of what I'm facing. And that's the journey that becomes so intense, because you have to hold yourself and embrace yourself in the ugliest moments, in the darkness, right? So yeah, for me, it was like, whoa, like self-love just opened a whole different kind of perspective when I was able to see, wait a minute, it's not about just loving myself when I'm going through the good moments. It's also very much about loving myself exactly for who I am. Right here, right now in this moment, right? So I just feel like that's why it's so important that we share this message and this perspective that, it's not self-love and self-routines and pink flowers and pink colors. No, it's loving
and I
everything.
think also a lot of people are made to feel that it's selfish to practice self-love. So if you're a mother, it's selfish. So it's said to people that it's selfish if you take time for yourself, whether, like I said, go for a walk. That's not selfish. But we're really conditioned that if you're a mom, you're at home all day, you care for the kids, or you go to work, or you do whatever you want. You don't get time for yourself. Regardless if you love yourself or not, you're not supposed to do that. And I think a lot of people lack providing themselves with self-love because they feel that it's selfish, or they fear that they're going to be seen as selfish.
Yeah, with society, or all the exterior stuff outside of us. And it really is like a society issue, right?
Well, going back, like our parents, the women didn't care about self-love. Nobody cared about it. So we were all conditioned to think that this is selfish. And then now that it's on a big movement, a lot of people have a lot of things to say. A lot of men have a lot of things to say about it because women are now like embarking on their self-love journeys. But back then it was just not heard of. And women were meant to be silenced and quiet, and if you're depressed or if you don't love yourself, that's your problem and no one needs to know about it. So
like keep it quiet kind of thing. Right? Now that you said that, it makes me want to ask you this. Do you believe that somebody that doesn't have self-love for themselves, or awareness, right, that they are not connected to self-love, do you believe they can pour into somebody else, into the children, into the marriage, into the family, when they're not connected to their own self-love?
I think it's going to be a very tainted, dirty pour is what it's going to be. I think you can't really, you can't really love somebody the way they deserve to be loved if you don't love yourself the way you deserve to be loved. So how could you expect to pour into that person when you think you're not deserving of that, or you could give that. So I don't think that, for one, you're kind of robbing that person of love. And then you're kind of conditioning them and your kids to think that this is the kind of like half-assed love that they deserve. So I think, no, not until you fully love yourself. Like I've seen in the past 3 years, I'm such a better mom. Not a better mom, a more loving mom than I was prior. I'm a much more affectionate mom. I didn't grow up very affectionate with like affectionate parents. My mom was very affectionate, but then she struggled with her own things. And I noticed that the past 3 years, I was like, wow, I'm very loving and nurturing to my kids, way more than I've ever been in my whole life. And I'm like, because I finally love myself, and I'm like, okay, well, I could give you this love too. And then they're all much more loving to each other. So it's a domino effect that happens. It's really weird when you pay attention to it. But yeah.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I've been telling Steve the same thing. That was me also. I'm never been in an affectionate parents, never.
Yeah.
Never had, my parents were never the ones that hugged me and said, oh, I love you. Never, ever, ever, ever. And so, for me, before even becoming aware, that was me. That was the type of mom I was. My kids would come up to me and try and hug me. I'd be like, get away from me.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want? You know, or they'd be like, I love you, Mom. I'd be like, all right, whatever. Instead of saying like, I love you too. It's just, that was me. And to me, that my mentality was like, that's how I was raised, and I was fine. How many times have we not heard that? And so anyways, that is until I became aware of what I was lacking and learned this self-love. Like, I'm not kidding. I've said, I think I mentioned it before, and I've told Stevie a million times, I literally had to Google, what is self-love and how do I practice it? I Googled it. I had to. And it gave me all these different things. And I was looking at them and I was just like, what the hell? Who does this shit? Like, this is stupid. Like, it naturally, to me, it sounded so ridiculous and just like, this is dumb. Cause that's how far detached I was from any of it, you know? And then, but for me, I had to start with the rough parts, with, again, finding, like, you know, realizing that where I was living in the shame and the guilt and all that depression stuff. And I had to work through that in order to finally see, like, dang, I am lacking all of this stuff. And now that I practiced it, and I feel like, man, just even recently, I had a conversation with Stevie, because me and Stevie, we do like our own little sessions together. And I mean, she's amazing at helping people realize so many things. But, and she mentioned to me something that she was along the way, like saying, like, everything that you're looking for, or these things that you're looking for that you feel that you're lacking, or somebody's not giving it to you, is you need to find it within yourself. You need to get it. And I remember she would be telling me that for years. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, I
literally just had this conversation with a girlfriend. I'm like, stop reaching for external factors to find your inner happiness. She's like, what?
She would tell me all the time, you know, because I would have I felt like I required things from my husband that I needed him to validate me, especially now that I started, you know, my own business and everything. I would go to her and tell her, he doesn't support me. Like, and I was devastated. It would like completely make me feel like I'm not doing this anymore. And I'm like, he's not supported. He's not this, he's not this. And she'd be like, well, what do you believe in yourself? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, well, do you really believe in yourself? Because if you can give that to yourself, if you just know that Lou can do it, I don't care if he believes in me, and if X, Y, and Z believe in me. I'm gonna do it either way. I'm gonna do it either way, and I'm gonna succeed. You know, and she would tell me, like, if you're needing something from him and from other people, that you are not giving it to yourself. And so I think the last conversation she had, and she told me that, it was finally when it clicked in my head, because for years she'd been telling me things similar to that, and I'm like, well, I don't understand what you're talking about. Like, how could you tell me that I shouldn't expect these things from these people that I love, right? And she's like, you shouldn't. You need to give all that stuff to yourself. Right. So then finally I'm there. I don't need anything from anybody, absolutely anything. I'm not saying, oh, I don't ever want my husband to be affectionate or people to, you know, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, I am not out there expecting these things anymore. Like
Right.
the expectation is no longer there because I feel whole. Like I'm a
Right.
whole freaking person myself. Like, are
Yeah.
you kidding me? I
Yeah.
could do this shit. I believe in myself. I can do things. I don't need anyone else to tell me like, I believe in you, Lou. You can go do it, you know? And so that was a game changer for me. And that has helped me be like, I feel it just put me on a whole new level with being a mom. Like when I cannot live without my children. I want to hug them. I will love them. I tell them how much I love them. It's just crazy that even like talking about my kids brings me so much joy that before I was just like, what do you guys want? You're so annoying, you know? And so I feel that, yes, it's true. You cannot, what you mentioned, the whole tainted, like nasty, dirty water is what you're going to be pouring into the other person. There's just no way. There's no way that you can have a clean, pure pour to anyone else outside of you if that's not what you're giving to yourself.
Right.
There's just no way. And Devi had mentioned to me too, she's like, there's a lot of people that say, I am an empty cup. I don't know how to love myself, but I'm going to love my kids. I'm going to pour into them. And it's like, no.
You're going to drain
absolutely
yourself.
no.
You're going to run yourself
There's
ragged.
nothing. And if you are pouring, it is disgusting, dirty, murky water that you're pouring into them. That's just what it is. There's just, you can picture it whatever you want in your brain, but it's just not, it's not that,
right.
You know? It, like you said, it's half-ass shit that you're giving the kids,
like
right?
half-ass pour.
Yeah. So, and it comes with pain. It comes with hurt. You're passing on the same stuff. Your kids are going to be feeling the same way. You think, okay, I'm empty on self-love, but I'm going to pour into my kids. You're pouring in empty self-love. So guess what? That kid is going to grow up to be an empty kid with
murky, dirty water.
Yeah, with no self-love too. So you can say that that's what you're giving, but your kid is just going to keep doing the same thing just like you are.
And then it kind of spills out more into like, not even that your child will give, this tainted love, but they'll also be accepting to receive tainted love. And they'll be okay.
Which is it's horrible to think
with that. Yeah. Because if you don't love yourself, you are accepting of whatever's thrown your way. Like you said, you were looking for external factors to make yourself happy. That was me 3 years ago. Like I just needed validation from whoever would give it to me. It could be someone on the street that I'm like, they said they liked me. I'm like, okay, they're in love with me. They like me. Perfect. And that's because I had just no boundaries, no love for myself, that I was like, okay, I'll accept this love from anybody who gives me any of attention. I'm going to accept it. And I feel like if you don't love yourself, that's literally what you're teaching your kids, is that someone could give you the bare minimum love and you're going to think that's enough, when there's this beautiful world out there with so much love to give. But if you're barely like just accepting the breadcrumbing, that's all you're going to get. And you're just kind of like holding them back and yourself back.
Yeah, for sure. That's so very, very powerful. What do you ladies feel that is the reason that we even get disconnected from self-love? We weren't born disconnected from self-love, right? There's no baby that you carry that's born disconnected. Something happened along the way that disconnected us from that part. What do you believe it is? For example, for me, I feel like it was not believing that I was worthy, not believing that I was worthy of receiving love from others, or that I was lovable to begin with, right? And if you go even deeper than that, there's a root of why I have that belief. Well, the root is my upbringing, right? Never being modeled love, was never given affection. So there's a root to all these, to why we even get disconnected. And not to say, I truly believe that self-love is like a cord that we have. We can never get disconnected from it, but we can become separated, like in a way, like we're way too far, we walk too far away from that cord, right? We can always come back home whenever we're ready. But what has been your experiences of why you each feel that you even got disconnected from that part of yourself?
For me, gosh, I feel like I've been disconnected a few times. But then when I look back at the root, like, why did I end up, where I am like today? I would go back to my childhood. I would go back to having, so I'm a child of an addict. So my mom was an addict. And she was a great mom, a very attentive mom. But once she hit when I was 12, when it's probably most meaningful to be, there, she just was absent. Then, we would see her like drunk and all of these things, and she just wouldn't pay attention to us. So there was no love there. The person that's supposed to love you the most was not there. And then it came back in like my 20s where she did the same thing, wasn't there when she was supposed to love me the most. So I think it kind of spilled over into like my adulthood, my relationships of like, well, they could give you half-assed love. They could give you toxic love, and you're going to accept it because that's what it looks like. Mm-hmm. So for me, I'm like, if my mom was crazy one day and then lovable the next day, that was fine for me.
Yeah.
So I think that's what took me away.
And how did that, so now that that's such an important point, right? You see the pattern. How did that pattern, the one that you just explained, run into your adulthood life? What did that look like 20 years later, 15 years later for Kaila? Because she had been seeing this pattern be okay.
It looked like every relationship that I accepted was the same exact way, resembled my mother. It resembled chaos love, a very chaotic love, not a very stable, steady love ever in any of my relationships growing up. And I think that like I said, it was just because I was so thinking that I was deserving of that's all I was able to maintain because that's what I was shown. But now that I have found love in myself, now I could recognize, okay, I myself am attracted to chaos because that's where I came from and that's my childhood. So now that I love myself, I could say, no, that's just chaotic and I like that. I'm a little magnet for it, but it's not good. It's not good for me. Shouldn't go that way. So I think that when you do start to love yourself, you kind of do get that lens comes off. That you're seeing, okay, well, this pattern, I'm really addicted to this pattern, but it's not the right pattern. And I think that when you love yourself, more patterns all over just kind of start to come out. And you're like, oh, wait, no, that's probably not the best thing for me. So if that answered your question.
Yeah.
The awareness. It's just having
you
a
become
type
very
of
aware.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest blessings that people can give to themselves is becoming aware of what your pattern is, of what it is that you're chasing, what it is that you follow, what it is that you, like you said, what am I becoming a magnet to? What keeps following me? And realizing, why are these things following me? Why do I keep falling into the same pattern? And kind of connecting the dots into back, like Devi says, you can think like, oh, it's because when I was like 20, this happened, or I was in this relationship, but and this person
it stems so much deeper than that relationship.
And this person like damaged me this way, that's why. But it's like, okay, but why did you allow that damage? So let's go further, let's go into the actual root, right, of it all. That type of awareness is like it's like a pivotal moment where you're like, holy shit, and you start to see things so much different, right? Because you start to question everything about yourself. You stop questioning things like, why is he like that with me? Why is she like that with me? Why did that happen to me? Why does this happen to me? Why? Because you, instead of asking these questions outside, you start asking it to yourself, like, wait a minute, this all has to do with me.
Like, why am I allowing that?
Yes. Yeah. Why are these things happening to me? So that type of awareness is where the blessings just start to come in. And when you start to really question it, like Devi says, get down to the root of it,
Well, I think you have to, I say this to everybody, you have to take accountability for the part you play in your own suffering. I say that all the time. I'm like, that is so crucial. But then you have to love yourself enough to have compassion for those parts that you played in your own suffering.
Yep.
If you don't love yourself through those times, you're going to make it 10 times worse. But also, you're just going to keep feeling nasty and crummy inside.
Yeah, because now that we're adults, right, now that we see those patterns, let's say a pattern shows up in front of you, that is the pivotal point at that moment to either, okay, am I going to hold and embrace myself with compassion while I see this? Or am I going to do what was done to me in childhood?
Right.
Which was be shamed for not doing whatever you were asked to do, or feel guilty, or, just go down that pattern that we were used to when we were like growing up. And I feel like when we are aware that in that moment we can make a decision to embrace ourselves with compassion, it is life-changing, because if you can hold compassion for your own self, in return, you can hold compassion for others whenever they're navigating what they're navigating, right? When one thing that I noticed, even as getting ready for this podcast, is that if I don't have compassion for myself, there is absolutely no way I can feel compassion for somebody else. No way.
Right.
If I'm mean to my own self when I'm navigating something dark, then when somebody in front of me is telling me, hey, I'm going through blah, 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 I'm responding the same way that I would respond to my own self, right? So compassion for our own selves and the relationship that we have with our own selves is the most important relationship, because that is your root to where your branches will branch off and how you will be in the world to begin with, right? If we don't have that healthy relationship with our own selves and are not in love with our own self, and we cannot have compassion for us, then that's where the empty cup comes in.
Right.
It is because we cannot hold ourselves and embrace ourselves with love. And it's just sometimes making that distinction that we no longer have to do to ourselves what was done to us in childhood.
Right.
We could change the story now.
Absolutely.
We're not kids anymore. We're not children anymore. We could parent ourselves. That's when reparenting comes in for us as adults. It's like giving ourselves what we needed at that time, right? Giving ourselves, getting to know our own needs, getting to know like more about our own selves, and then being there for our own selves, right?
And I think also there comes a time in your life where it's like you can no longer be this victim of your childhood. I stand on that so much. I'm like, I had a crazy ass childhood. Horrible. And I'm not going to be a victim to that. Like, I'm like, I cannot sit here and give my kids like a half-ass love and all of these things because my mom did that or somebody did that to me. And I think people have to take responsibility for that now, like as you get older. And you no longer could sit there and say, well, this happened to me and I'm not going to take the right steps to re-love myself or reparent or whatever it may be. So I feel like that's huge with your self-love journey, is that regardless if you've had a crazy childhood, you still have to take responsibility for that, for yourself now as an adult.
Yeah, that has a lot to do with staying in that victim mentality, in the victim language. That has a lot to do with the lack of self-love, Right. You're not giving that to yourself if you're still saying that you are a victim of everything that happened to you, instead of viewing it as things that happened for me.
Right.
This happened for me because now that you're aware of it, you are so much more than that. You realize that you're so much more than that.
Oh, yeah.
Now you have little humans that you can teach that they are so much more than that, that you can stop that cycle from what happened to you, happening to them, happening to the grandkids, and so on and so forth. That is your responsibility now moving forward. The moment you remain in that victim mentality, you're just going to continue it, right?
Yeah.
You're going to relive it. They're going to relive it. Their kids are going to relive it, and it's just going to continue. So it's that victim mentality, changing it. So if you're still in that, that's another warning sign that you're lacking in self-love.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's so crucial, like how you're saying, like the message we're passing along, right? Like my daughter, my 13-year-old told me the other day, because she's heard a lot of the things that have happened to me, like, I've shared some stuff they overheard and some stuff I willingly had to share with them. And one day she told me, I don't understand, Mom, how you are standing and are strong after everything you've been through. Like, how? Like, her little mind doesn't comprehend that, right? And I'm like, because obviously they lived a very different childhood than we have. And I was like, and I told her, I was like, because so that you don't have to. Right? Like, I'm showing you that you could get through difficult moments and you don't have to be defined by them. We will continue to face difficult moments it doesn't mean that, okay, we heal and then there. No, we will continue to face them through the end of our time here on earth. But what matters is that we have the strength and the courage to go within, do the work, and then stand in our power, right? We could get through difficult times. We were built to get through difficult times.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's in us already. You know, the recipe that we need isn't
And the only
us.
way to get through those difficult times is if you have self-love.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Yes. And I wanted to touch a little bit on how does society train us to seek external validation instead of looking within? So society has trained us and programmed us, look outside.
Right.
Go look for your answers outside, right? So some of the external validations I have are seeking someone else to feel us so that we can feel loved or worthy.
I agree
right?
with that.
Second is needing someone else to act or behave in a certain way so we feel seen, loved, or validated. Needing someone else to meet and know our own needs. People pleasing, social media approval. I mean, there's many more. But what are some of the things that you feel like you ran into within that?
Definitely external validation. So if I wasn't dating somebody and I'm alone, I feel unlovable, unworthy. Like, well, what's wrong with me? Like, why doesn't somebody want to go on a date with me? Things like that. In relationships, it was like, oh, I'm not receiving flowers. Something so stupid. It dies. Flowers die. I'm like, it's so stupid when you really look at it. And I would sit there and just feel so empty and unloved because I didn't receive flowers. But that person could have been, their love language could have been making dinner for me or something. And that was them giving me flowers. But because I'm seeking it in a different way, I didn't see that. I would say those two things were really, for me, I looked externally a lot for love until I was like, girl, just go buy her freaking flowers. Like, what the hell? Like, go look at yourself in the mirror. You know you ain't ugly.
Yeah, exactly,
Like,
Kaila.
you're a lot, but you know, like, you really don't need someone to come tell you, like, hey, you're pretty, or hey, let me buy you some flowers. They're gonna die in a week, but hey, you know. So those are my big. Or you know what? And then as coming from a mom's perspective, I used to feel so sad. Like if, you know, because my kids, they go visit their dad. Now, if they didn't want to stay with me, I'm like, well, they don't love me. They're not loving me. So I'm not worthy, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe I didn't get like, I love you, mom, today. So I was like, oh, great. They don't love me. You know, and those are things. And when I'm like, oh my God, that's so dumb. Like, they don't even care to say that because they're kids. They do love me. I love me.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't love me?
Yeah. There you go. You're like, that's the self-love, baby.
So I'm like, stop. You're like so dramatic. And then I also feel too, because I feel like people don't really know how to go on a journey of self-love. Sometimes like how to start. And a lot of people say do the whole words of affirmation things. I'm not a words of affirmation girly. I'll see something pop up. I'm just like, you're great today. And I'm like, yeah, off. Like, no, I'm not. But I have compassion because I know I'm going to love myself today, but whatever. So I feel like your self-love could start by setting a goal for yourself and doing like, okay, I'm going to do my hair every day this week. I'm going to wake up before the kids and I'm going to do my hair, or I'm going to wake up and make a cup of tea or coffee. Those are things that I started doing for self-love that have been extremely hard for me to do. I typically roll out of bed and I look insane and I'm like, I love myself so much. I need to brush my hair before I drop the kids off at school. I cannot show up like this. And so those have been little things that I'm like, okay, we'll work on that. Or I'm going to make a cup of coffee for this whole week. And then it gets to Friday and I'm like, oh my God, I did it. Girl, you're amazing. Yeah. Like things like so simple. So it doesn't have to be
like big.
What's on social media. You don't have to be on a trip to Bali with champagne in first class thinking, and that's the only way you're going to fall in love with yourself. Like it's just not real.
Yeah. It's true. I feel like one of those things that, when you mentioned about like looking for those external, that's one of the things that I struggled with. That's one of the ways like that I was able to spot it. Like, and there's many ways to spot it. Like in people, there's a lot of people out there that don't know that they're lacking self-love. Like they don't know that. They have no idea. They think they love themselves.
And then when you know, that you love yourself and you see them, you're like, you're like rotten inside. Yeah. Rotten little fruit over there.
Yeah. Or they'll say, yeah, exactly. And you're so, to me, it's like this, for people that don't know how to spot it, I just want to mention some of these things that I struggled with. And then I feel that this is how you would spot that you are lacking self-love. You don't say positive things about yourself, right? You're a people pleaser. You don't set boundaries. You're always trying to please others, even though it goes against your own, what you actually truly want. You constantly feel guilty for doing anything for yourself. Anything, even if it's sitting down for 15 minutes or watching a episode of whatever you want, right? You're unable to give or receive compliments. You can't genuinely give them. And when they give them to you, you cannot just say, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's just accepting it and saying thank you. Instead of saying like, if you say, oh, no, and I don't, no, I don't. Or, if they're struggling to accept it, that's lack right there. You feel jealous of others. You're unable to give or receive affection. That was huge for me. That's what we talked about.
I still struggle a little bit with that one. But
with the affection?
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
I'm not an affectionate person. I want to be. But I'm like with my kids, I am.
Do you feel that you struggle giving it and getting it? Or
I feel like getting it. I feel weird.
See, that's one thing that I struggled with a lot as well, too. And it's just one of those things that it has to do with you need to figure out like what it is. Like it's still, something is still there blocking that. Yeah. Right. And I remember one time we went to therapy a long time ago and our counselor at the time was telling us like, he's like, you guys, because me and my husband were both struggling in that aspect. We're just like, we don't know how to do that. We don't know how to do that. And he's like, well, you have kids, so you guys do know how to do something. So anyways, I was like, no, it's just the affection part. Yeah. So he was just like, you guys just need to practice it. And at first it's going to be super awkward. Really awkward.
Yeah,
it's going to be
awkward. Picturing this in my mind and I'm like, that feels awkward.
Exactly. He said it's going to be awkward, but you just need to keep practicing. And next thing you know, you're just going to be like, I really like how this feels. It's a human thing. We need it. Yeah. Right. And so if we are saying, I don't need it and I can live without it, is because something's still blocking it. So it's more practicing it. Right. Other way to spot it is you criticize others or you compare yourself to others. It's very easy if somebody's walking in the door and the moment, the first thing that you want to do, especially as females, right, is criticize what she's wearing, how she looks, why is she wearing that, shouldn't be wearing that, or he or she, whatever, it doesn't matter. There's something there that you're lacking from yourself, right? I feel like that's huge. Or comparing yourself to, that was me a lot. I feel that I was always trying to compare where I was in my career, where I lived, what I drove, all this stupid stuff that to me, I could care less right now, right? Physically, you're sick often. There's something going on there. You don't ask what you want, and you don't ask for the things that you want, and you don't take your own needs into account. We kind of talked about that too, and denying yourself things that you actually want. Like you just won't do it, Right. So if anyone listening right now can relate to any of that there's still something there that's blocking, right? And it's just working through those things and daily practices it just opens up it's like a whole new level that you unlock. It's just crazy. I mean, it just feels amazing. And when you're filled with all of that, what you pour out is beautiful. It's like those videos where you show the people pouring the cup, how we're talking about the whole thing of the cup. It literally starts to clear that water. Right. And it's just beautiful after that.
And I think it is like a continuously evolving thing within yourself. Because like for me, I'm like, I could sit here all day and be like, I love myself so much. And I have a lot of things to show for it that I do. But then I do have those little parts to me that I'm like, that needs a little work.
Yeah. And
then I'm like, oh, I have compassion because I know like, okay, I'm not letting someone want to hug on me or something. That's a little part of me that's like, you probably got to give that a little more attention and some love. So I think it's also about making sure that that like, it's okay if you're on your self-love journey and you think you've made it to the top, but then there's something that we talked about that triggers you and you're like, hold up, that's actually not okay.
That's the beautiful part of it,
Yeah.
Kaila. The journey that is like the journey ends when we die. Honestly, that's just what it is.
Yeah.
That's when it ends. Okay. So
That just got so dark.
you're like, damn it, we're talking
Oh
about
my
self-love
God.
and now I'm
I was
dying.
picturing like Miley Cyrus, It's the Climb right now in my head, like singing the song, It's the Climb. And I was like, oh, the self-love journey, it's the climb. And then you're like, and then we die. And I'm like, whew.
You're like, damn it.
Then it went to Billie Eilish, or what's her name?
Yes, it just got so dark.
No, but it's true. It's not
because
layered.
it is. It really is, and it ends. The journey ends when we die, right? So, it's just something that you have to have compassion for yourself and not sit there and be like, shit, I thought I had it all figured out already.
Right.
You know, what the hell? I thought no, you don't. And that's the beauty of it, because you just keep, like Phoebe said earlier, it's just all these layers that you peel one and you're like, oh, dang, there's another one. And it keeps going and it keeps going. So
I think people who want to go on a self-love journey should go buy that book. What is it called? The 4 Love Languages. Or have you heard of that book? I have the book, The 4 Love Languages. I feel like I'll let you borrow it. They need to like see this book, read it, because most people read it when they're in a relationship. But this is something you should have read before you were in a relationship. Yeah. And you should make sure you're hitting those 4 love languages with yourself and like learning to speak those to yourself before, like the book is always given to people in a relationship. And I'm like, why isn't this like a self-help book? It should be.
Yeah, because even I remember when I was on a different podcast, we were talking about this topic. You know, how come they can't manifest the love of their life, blah 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 blah. And I said, well, easy. Make a list of the things that you want of the guy, and ask you, are you those things? If your answer is no, then you're not ready to manifest the guy that you're looking for, right? So it's like, because she was we were talking about that, and I was like, it's just as simple as that. Write the things. I want a good communicator. I want somebody that honors me. Well, do you honor yourself?
Right.
I want somebody that, I don't know, buys me flowers. Well, do you buy yourself flowers? I want somebody that takes me on dates. So you take yourself on dates, you know? So it's like becoming, embodying the things that we are seeking in a partner.
Right.
Because if we can do that, if we could place ourselves in that frequency and that vibration, oh my God. I'm a true testament to that, right?
Yeah.
Where I manifested the relationship I have with my husband, because when I met him, I had hit rock bottom right before him. And when I met him in that moment, I was in love with myself. I truly loved myself. I remember telling myself one day, after I had been through something really difficult with somebody I was dating before him, I said, God, never again. Like, what? I don't need to do this to myself. From this day forward, I'm okay with being with myself. I'm okay dating me. If the chance opens up one day where I can enter a relationship, this is what I would like. And then I just focused on me. I was in love with me in that moment.
That's literally me. I take myself on dates right now.
Yeah,
I'm like,
and
girl,
that's
you're
the
deserving.
best. Yeah. If we could get comfortable with just loving ourselves, right? The relationships we manifest, the friends, the jobs, everything resembles how we're feeling inside, right? I also wanted to ask you, what has been your fight, your force behind wanting to connect to self-love? Like, what is your why?
Happiness. I want to be happy. I don't think you could be fully happy if you do not love yourself. You just can't. You can't thrive also. You can't thrive in a lot of aspects in your life, in motherhood, in your career, in your health. You just can't. I feel like if you do not, and I want to be a healthy person. I want to be a very successful person. I want to be an awesome mother. I want to live longer than the whole death thing, you know? So it's like, I have so many goals.
You can't live longer than death, Kaila. So, sorry. It ends there.
No. So I feel like that's my drive. I also want my kids to never go through anything that I've gone through in a relationship. I don't want them to believe that that is the norm. I want them to welcome love and be able to give love to other people in a very calm and peaceful, loving way. And they can't do that if I'm chaotic.
And how important is it for us to be the role model of that? Because if you have children, right, and we are in a chaotic relationship and they're watching that, how important is it for us to make sure that our child understands, hey, what you're watching at home, we might not be in our best place or whatever, but this isn't normal. I don't want you to normalize that this is okay. How important is it that we make that clear to our children, or that we're the role model itself, right? That we are embodying a better, I don't know, understanding of ourselves.
I think it kind of goes back. The answer really is us and ourselves. So how important is it? Well, we could look back and use ourselves as an example. That's how important it is. Look at all the damage and the chaos that we absorbed, created some of it before even getting on this journey. So that's how important it is that if we don't stop it now, it's going to be chaotic and crazy for them. And also, I mean, obviously, like relationship-wise, no one's relationship is perfect. There's going to be chaos. That's normal. And kids adapt to that stuff and should know. But like you said, you know, expressing like, hey, this is not the best way. But also, I think that also goes into growth and self-love, because we should be able to communicate peacefully and calmly in a loving tone, even when we're pissed off. That's something I struggle with.
Oh, yeah. No, I feel that's...
But that is part of loving yourself, is being able to have really tough, crazy, hard conversations without making it seem scary and bad, and to where someone's traumatized from, you know, someone burning something, or someone didn't pick up something at the store, you know. That's how important it is. It's very, very important.
Yep.
And if you can give your younger self a message about self-love, what would you tell her?
Oh God, that's hard. I would really tell my younger self that, like, you are enough, because since I was a young girl, I mean, my first serious relationship was at 15 years old, and I lived with my boyfriend because I wanted to get out. And if I loved myself, I probably wouldn't have done that. I would have made the choice maybe to go live with my father or something else. I would have told myself I'm enough, but then I also would have told myself to give myself a lot of grace, because I feel like if you are so hard on yourself and you don't have grace, how could you create a loving space within yourself if there's no grace at all? Yeah. That's what I would have done. And then I would have been like, girl, you're killing it.
Yeah.
You are
beautiful.
And if your future self spoke today, right, what would she tell you about self-love?
Oh my God. I would have loved to meet me like 3 years ago when I was a little girl, actually, because I feel like my future self just would have been like everything I said tonight. I would have told myself all these things. I would have told myself about, you know,
like at this moment, I meant. Like at this moment, you're right here, right now, and your future self comes.
Oh, my future self comes
and talks to you now. What would she tell you about self-love?
Well, I don't know. That's a hard one. I don't know. I feel like, no, I don't even know. I don't even know.
She'd probably say, thank you, Kaila, for starting this journey.
She'd probably thank me.
Wow.
Yeah. She'd give me a raise. If my brother hears this, she would give me a raise. Like, she would be like, you're a boss. Thank you. Yeah. My big self would have hugged my little self. I know that for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So
I know. I love that. It's funny that you mentioned that your why is happiness, because I had written down a quote that from the book that you let me borrow, that's called Radical Self-Love from Kaila Darling.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the quotes, something that I just picked up from the book that I loved was like it says, our overall state of happiness is essentially a reflection of how we feel about ourselves. And that's... I was like, that's it. And so I wrote it here. So the fact that you said, I'm doing this journey so I could be happy. And it really is that, you know, it's our overall state of happiness, how just literally what we think happy is just how we feel about ourselves. So if you don't feel happy with your life, with what you're going through, with what you're dealing with right now, that's just a reflection how much you love yourself, how you feel about yourself. It's just a reflection. So That's funny that you mentioned it because it goes exactly
Little
with
coincidence.
that.
Yeah, for sure. That's also important. What are a few ways that you, ladies, or tips that you'd give people to begin connecting to self-love? Like if you were asked, Kaila, give me two things that you used for yourself that helped you.
I would definitely say, so simple, easy as goal. Just wake up in the morning and get ready. Get ready. You feel so much better when you're put together. You feel good when you wake up and you wash your face, you do your hair and makeup, and you look good. You could feel dead inside, but you did that, and then you're not going to feel as shitty. That's one thing. Honestly, I feel like eating habits are such a self-love thing that we overlook. I feel like if you wake up and you're just eating trash for like the whole week, you're going to feel horrible about yourself. So I feel like setting up like a healthy eating pattern, and it's so simple. It could just be like maybe cut out one thing every day. It doesn't have to be this crazy drastic thing. It's just a small little baby steps. But I would say get ready every day for 1 week. See how you feel at the end of the week. And then I would say start with a simple little eating habit or like a coffee habit. Something in the morning just that you do for yourself that's healthy, that feels good. Those are 2 very, very easy little steps that anybody could do. And I feel like that's just the start of it. You're going to feel so much better by the end of the week.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
What are some tips you would share?
For me, I think for sure, if somebody is trying to start their self-love journey, what helped me is definitely would be to have the affirmations are huge. It helped me. They really helped me, and they still help me. And now every time I read them super passionately. Before I was just like, this is stupid, but okay, I'm going to say it out loud, you know, because I struggled with connecting to it. But now it's, they become extremely powerful, and they literally do motivate me. So I feel like it helps me. But more than anything was having self-compassion, and forgiving myself for everything that played in my head over and over and over and over and over. And I just kept feeling guilty and shame and depressed. And it created anxieties for the future. And it's just like telling myself like, hey, you know what? It's okay. Like, you know, everything that I did or didn't do in my past, it served me a purpose, right? I feel like in that time, and that I like we've mentioned before, if I knew better, I would have done better. But I have only could do as far as my knowledge went. And so I'm okay with all that now. And I don't feel that I carry that burden with me, which was just a huge load off my shoulders. And now I can see people the same way, you know? So it's been extremely helpful on that journey, for sure.
Something also that I do, and I mean, it's just something that works for me. I always have fresh flowers in my house. I go and buy myself fresh flowers. I do it every Sunday. My Sunday routine is like go buy your fresh flowers and declutter your house, because I feel like if you're in a clean, loving space, you have more room to love yourself.
Yeah.
You want to get up and you want to go sit in your living room and read a book, or you want to do those things. And something as simple as getting up and reading a book, that's a form of self-love.
Huge, yeah.
So I feel like go buy yourself flowers once a week. Put them in your house, like something so simple, because you're seeing it, and that's just going to remind you like, oh, I love myself. I got those for me. Those are beautiful. I'm beautiful. Like little things like that.
I love that. I used to do flowers. I need to go back to that routine again.
All my girlfriends, I'm like, did you get your flowers today?
Yeah.
Get your flowers. I buy my daughter's flowers for like something so simple. I'm like, you know what? Oh, you had a good day. Here's some flowers. You deserve that.
Yep.
Little things.
Yeah. I love that.
That's just beautiful. One thing that I would share is just changing the way I spoke to myself was really, really big for me, because I had this fierce inner critic that constantly criticized and judged and just was dark, right? And that was my voice, my inner voice all day. I couldn't hear my true voice under that, because this voice used to overpower everything within, right? So now it's changing the way I speak to myself. That was one big one. And learning to have compassion has been like really big for me, because I I could not, for the life of me, have compassion for myself. It was really, really hard. So those two things, learning to embark the journey with those two things, are the ones that are driving day by day, even when we face challenges, right? Because that's just how it is. If we have the tools in our box, then we could just take them out and use them when they're needed, right? So those two things are the ones that I would share. And definitely being willing to connect to your self-love, because if you're not even willing, right, if you are hearing all this information but there's no courage, there's no responsibility, and there's no willingness, nothing will change.
Right.
You could read 1,000 books, you could hear 1,000 podcasts, but if that's not in place, nothing's going to change.
Right.
So that is also very important. And yeah, just bringing awareness to everything, right? Awareness, me and Lou always share this message. Awareness is the number one step. If you are not aware, you can't change anything, right? So just questioning yourself, questioning why you do certain things is also super, super important. And remembering that you are love. You were born from source, from God itself. You are loved. You were born worthy already. This isn't something you need to go look for.
Right.
It's within you. It's your true nature. Love, worthiness, it is who you are at your core, right? It's just that we forget because of certain things that happen, and that's okay, right? That's what we came to do, to forget and remember, right? And forget again, and then remember again. That's like the journey we're all on. So just remembering those things is extremely important, and opening our hearts to receiving love, just giving ourselves permission to receive. It's big, big, big. Just telling yourself or writing a letter to yourself saying, I accept love. I open my heart to love. I don't know what it will look like, but I'm open and I'm willing to receive it, right? That's just super, super important as well, that we just give ourselves permission to be loved, to be in that energy. I feel like it's big.
I love that. I love it. I love it so much. I've been, I definitely see things way different. Before, love was like, ugh, love. I used to hate Valentine's, actually. And
Really?
just like started liking, really, really like embracing it, maybe like 4 years ago, like slowly. But I used to be like the stupidest freaking holiday ever. And I was in a relationship.
Yeah.
So and every year I feel like I love it more and more.
Yeah.
I just love the word. I love what it means, and not necessarily from a relationship aspect.
Yeah,
just
no.
in general, in the love that I can give to myself. Now, like in this last year, that I've like learned so much about it, and the love I can give to my kids, to my friends, to my family. Like, it's just been amazing. So I loved this episode. I love that you were here with us today.
You. This was
and
fun.
shared, everything that you've gone through in your journey. And thank you so much for opening up and giving us all that, all that with the love. We've really felt that. So I'm so thankful for that.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, for being vulnerable as well, for opening yourself to answering a lot of the questions and sharing your journey with us, with the audience. I know that someone will definitely pick up a thing or two, or more than two things. So. You have so much wisdom to share in this area, and we thank you for sharing that with us. Yep. We hope this isn't the last time you come. We hope.
I hope not.
We enjoyed every moment.
We enjoyed it. Thank you. And I've loved watching you flourish.
Thank you.
Yes.
I've loved it, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. The guilt set in for a little bit, when you start to really like flourish, and then you're like, wait, no, you deserve this. Like, don't feel guilty about becoming this amazing person that you deserve to be, that you want to be. So yeah, thank you for saying that.
Yes, thank you. And anything else
No, I hope everybody's this month is just feeling the love, guys. And if you can take something from this, and you guys can start practicing, or even be self-aware of the things that you've that you've kind of picked up that you're like, shit, those things, I'm doing it or they're happening to me. And maybe I do need to work a little bit on that, you know. Practice some of these tips, and I hope that your guys' self-love journey just becomes an amazing one.
Yes, for sure. And always remember that you are not broken. You are love remembering itself. That is the journey we are on. We are actual love remembering that we are love.
Yeah.
And that's like the most beautiful journey to be on, right? And as always, you can find us at Unlocking Our Code podcast. We hope you join us on the next one. Bye.
Bye, guys.